This video is sponsored by Crimson Manifesto, Knuckles OX, and Jopi. Fierce fight for formidable friends. What if Hinata was on Team 7, Part 6, Act 3? We resume a few minutes before the beginning of Team Uzumaki and Team Omoi's match, giving us glimpses of Hinata and Sasuke's Traitor games in round 2 and how they got their own partners. This seeing Hinata revealing herself to be a traitor to both Shikamaru and Haku, who has made a surprise reappearance for an official chance of becoming a Chunin. The duo acting as her contemporaries in this round, and almost immediately due to her earnest and hopeful nature, Hinata attempts to come up with a clever solution for all of them to possibly pass, and therefore is very upset with the revelation of the stipulations heading into the next rounds, while also being forced to take the traitors' advantage of the choice of the losers. Shikamaru, however, makes this easy for Hinata, simply saluting her and saying she's actually giving him a great excuse, since his mother can't nag him if he says the lavender-eyed angel knocked him out of the tourney. Hinata still tries to be supportive and encourages Shikamaru to make sure he tried again, since she knew from their time at the academy he was hiding true genius, only getting a lazy wave out of him as he departs, while Haku quips their partnering up again, it seems, as their proctor Kotetsu escorts them to the third round venue. Meanwhile, Sasuke is paired with Kankuro and a red-headed girl in glasses named Karin, where thanks to the Sharingan alerting him to the chakra strings the other boy slightly manifested, he is able to stop Karin's headband from being snatched a little too quick for the sandboy to perceive. A bit awkwardly, Sasuke tries to mock this as a cute trick, but he more so just mumbles a bit while threatening to cut Kankuro's thread. However, this is ultimately unnecessary, as the real Kankuro swaps places with his bandaged puppet for another element of surprise, allowing him to still easily snag Karin's headband and win. Upon having the next round explained, Kankuro cockily surmises that Sasuke at least put up some resistance, and so he as the winning traitor decides to choose him to move on with, making Karin in the end a bit grateful to avoid the overbearing sand ninja, and leaves her feeling a bit sorry for such a shy and cute guy like Sasuke, as they walk down the corridor to the next venue, and Kankuro incessantly boasts and brags about how elite and ruthless the sand shinobi are. The Shinigami can't help but whisper to Sasuke that this kid is annoying, complaining that the Uchiha should have simply cut him down and taken his soul instead of letting him win on purpose. A stronger teammate wasn't worth his headache, causing the withdrawn teenager to hush the death god, as the sensation of his voice from the abyss is still foreign and very unsettling. This eerie vibe the Uchiha is giving off, however, settles when Sasuke recognizes Hinata and Haku just ahead of them and jogs out in the corridor to join them, compelling Kankuro to do the same, where they would then go on to see that Naruto is currently setting up the first match of round 3. Now Naruto and Sakura versus Omoi and Lee resumes, and it's quickly revealed that near about the point Naruto began to use Ninetales chakra, Lee had indeed fallen under a genjutsu cast by Sakura, as the two had slightly used the line of Naruto's shadow clones as the medium to simultaneously induce Lee with the genjutsu to immobilize him, while also allowing Naruto to gang up on Omoi with the pinkette, just as they discussed beforehand, since Omoi presented a far greater challenge than they had expected, and Sakura began to nag Naruto that she was running out of kunai in all this intense swordplay. That said, Omoi's genjutsu is supported by a strong and intensely developed physique. However, Naruto knows is positively wimpy compared to Lee, as he proves this forthright by tanking a slash with dead last, so the Dark Boy's blade only bursts itself halfway into his arm rather than taking it off completely. Upon seeing Naruto's autonomous healing via the Ninetales, Omoi quickly identifies what he is, though as his sensei and Yukito are shinobi he looks up to, coming from a shinobi culture that reveres their Jinchuriki, he personally has no prejudice against the Leaf Boy and remains discreet about it, and thus doesn't feel too bad about being rough, as he releases his sword and instead uses the back of its blade as a springboard, shoving the edge deeper into Naruto's flesh as he disengages with him and readies his own kunai to take on Sakura as he slips by the now healing Jinchuriki, once again proving her better in genjutsu, as he creates an opening to throw one of his knives swishing past Lee, which cuts its cheek and breaks into genjutsu. Omoi quickly fills him in, and Lee instantly rejoins the fight, as Naruto once again uses the mystical palm to speed up its recovery, and then uses the calamity palm to angrily rust and crumble away Omoi's katana before locking eyes back on his charging hero. For a few quick clashes, Naruto and Lee make the genjutsu he'd been in a reality, as the other boy activates some of his inner gates to take on Naruto's ant power as it grows the more intense the battle gets, while Sakura is still stuck trying to get Omoi into genjutsu, once again needing both an opening and a medium until she finally finds it. Thanks to Naruto's gross yet effective fighting style, there's a nice amount of blood on the ground, and through it, she can channel her chakra into him without physically needing to touch Omoi, tricking him into chasing a phantasm with her using a clone genjutsu, so that ultimately, he finds himself far too close to Naruto and Lee's battle for his own liking, with the real Sakura nearly out of bounds to stay safe, while giving a cheeky grin and telling her new teammate to go for the big finisher he promised her. Engrossed in their match, the two fellow Leaf Genin clash their dead last technique with a mad infinity dance of powerful blows. However, when Lee finally gets his teammate to wake up from his illusion and realizes he can't evade in time, Naruto finally makes his move, actually heeding the Nine-Tails' advice for a way to upgrade this technique on the fly, by letting the chakra used to buff his defenses surge with the force of the attacks he takes. Then, he simply has to bide that damage and throw it right back at the opponent in one violent burst of his chakra. A dead last blast, if you will. So with Omoi to his back and Lee to his front, Naruto breaks his own guard by spreading his body out wide, the thin layer of red chakra coating his body suddenly shining an energetic yellow as it expands and flashes out before a burst of chakra blows both shinobi away from Naruto, sending them skidding back, then leaving them sprawling and rendering both unable to continue any further, all from the force of the concussive wave they decided to sit at ground zero of, with Team Uzumaki being named the winners and being given choice of the next teammate, while Naruto eagerly brags and celebrates his win, even making sure to high-five Sakura and thank her for the great setup. Absolutely shocked by this win. Both Guy and Kakashi rush to check on the damage this could have done, but by the time they have touched the ground, Naruto has already created clones which are using the Mystic Palm Jutsu on both Lee and Omoi, healing the worst of their injuries before helping the medics load them more to gurneys, and even logging what and where the remaining wounds are, in a less than clinically accurate way, but still helpful. Kakashi is to say the most surprised in Naruto's self-control and sufficiency, while Guy, upon seeing that Lee will be just fine, admonishes him for not letting him know how youthful and hot-blooded his student was, stating this loss will also be fundamental in Lee's development. And subsequently, he feels uplifted as Naruto confirms they'll be picking up Lee as their third to move on to round 4, while telling Omoi he's nothing to sneeze at himself, and that he is sorry about his sword. Meanwhile, Kumodo, as Omoi's interim cell commander, is more so upset the boy's efforts weren't towards Hinata. However, he also noticed what Omoi did, and wonders if this info could curry him some favor with the Raikage. Looking into the stands directly at Gaara, once again affirming his intentions to face him next, Naruto makes it clear that Team Uzumaki is indeed setting the tone, declaring for all to hear his intention to win the whole shebang. While Hinata can't help but blurt out that Naruto is such a jerk, now finally getting a chance to demand to know why he wouldn't wait for either her or Sasuke. That way they get a guaranteed increase to their odds of winning. While Sakura particularly takes some offense to this, assuming she's insinuating that Team Uzumaki's odds would be better without her, to which the heiress haughtily boasts that she most certainly is. As the two rivals see sparks, Naruto simply shrugs and gives Hinata his usual big goofy grin, reminding the prep kid Kunoichi that this is a test, and what's more important, it's the first one in his life he's ever been invested in. So not only is he challenging himself, he's planning to ace this one, and even whoop her and the emo, and telling them that if they want him back or to prove that he still needs their babysitting to come to the top and take him on in the very final round. Until then, he's blowing past them. Then wanting to appear cool, he directs Sakura to follow him to the hospital, since he's pretty sure he can get Lee back up and running before those megs can if he gets a little more time. However, Sakura refuses, stating at least one of them should check out the competition. Plus, she wants to see Hinata back of her big mouth, and so he eventually has to tread out of the venue on his lonesome. A few matches with a few nobodies come to go, and eventually Sasuke and Kankuro go on to face a Rain Ninja and Shino, whom form Team Aburame. This ends up being a very hard match, due to Shino having taken very efficient command over the two-man cell to make a frightening combo of their genjutsu and his parasitic insects, one that forces even Kankuro to get very serious, only to quickly have his puppetry analyzed and overcome. With the Sharingan, however, Sasuke can see through the genjutsu and preempt the attacks of the insects, thereby saving Kankuro and showing him the subtle shift from his shy demeanor to his coldly focused one during battle, as well as what Kankuro calls a vibe about as unsettling as Gaara's. This ultimately whips Kankuro into shape and sees him back Sasuke's play, as the quiet Uchiha genius uses an assortment of kunai thrown masterfully, and Kankuro uses his puppet to tie them off with chakra strings, pulling off an impromptu collaborative jutsu and making a flying web net that traps Team Aburame, seeing Sasuke bluff converting it into a dragon flame jutsu to burn his opponents with a very net of chakra containing them, and thereby receiving surrenders from both. Upon getting their choice of teammate to pick up, Kankuro hesitates, suddenly not feeling so worthy of this group being called Team Kankuro, and so instead asks for Sasuke's input, now kinda strangely like members of Team 7, not really needing to listen very hard to hear his quiet replies, now with a bit more camaraderie and confidence as they now voluntarily form Team Uchiha. Sasuke ponders the question for a short while, before determining that his eyes and Kankuro's strings inherently give them some support against genjutsu, and combined, their long-range abilities were already formidable. The Rain Ninja's type jutsu was pretty average, but Shino was more than willing to get in and throw some pretty aggressive hands when it came down to it. And with an incredibly powerful and versatile tool like its insects, they could both increase their long-range power even further, and even cover their few blind spots while at it. Thus, Shino is the obvious pick, and becomes their third man, with their team also deciding to hang back and watch the remaining matches before beginning their preparation for the finals in a month. A few more battles take place that aren't of major note, while Hinata tries to make her decision, ultimately seeing a few of her familiar options either moving on or being beaten out until pickings become slim and her team becomes one of the final matches. In light of this, Hinata has already made the same decision that she expects Sasuke has, that their first fourth round opponent needs to be each other so they can have each other's back when it comes time to teach Naruto a lesson. But seeing Hinata's intense musings while Haku worries over the groove she's pacing in the floor, another Kunoichi has gotten fed up, making her decision for her by strolling up and causing her own teammate to trail behind her as they approach. The sand girl doesn't introduce herself, but Hinata's reputation precedes her, as per some of Tamari's mission parameters that is. So she's somewhat faithfully suggests a contest to see whose village produces stronger kunoichi, having wanted a shot at the fabled lavender-eyed angel, with Kiba as her teammate smugly stating that he wouldn't mind adding either of these cuties to his team. He's then subsequently shocked when Haku thanks him but informs he's a guy, to which Kiba huffs he's just made the choice a whole lot easier for them. However, Tamari nixes the word them, reminding number 1 that this is Team Tamari, and number 2, they hadn't received a yes just yet, something this meathead really needs to learn to do. Without much of a better choice than to accept this obvious setup, Hinata agrees to the match, having Haku's full support from the start, as he casually chirps that it'll be very satisfying to turn Kiba into a pincushion, with Hinata and Tamari seconding this, as their pride as ninja will make this, like Naruto and Lee's match, somewhat of 2 individual 1v1s. As the combatants of the match before clear the way, Team Hyuuga and Team Tamari take to their positions, hearing their senseis call some form of support or another, before the proctor orders for the match to begin. At which point, Hinata activates her Byakugan and Haku dons his mask, and uses a one-handed seal to create a mist for he and his partner to slip away in. However here, Kiba, Akamaru, and Tamari prove an overly effective combination, with the Inuzuka's noses alerting them to their positions in the mist, while the Sand Girl's wind-style mastery sees her revealing the first moon in her fan and blowing both Haku's mist away and slamming Hinata against an arena wall hard. However, performing a breakfall to reduce the damage and get back into the fight quick, and re-attempt her charge, using some of her shuriken jutsu to fire back, and actually force Kiba and Akamaru as Man-Beast clones to defend Tamari, as she ends up miscalculating the trajectory and skill of Hinata's thrown weapons, and subsequently opening all 3 up for Haku's water needle jutsu, made all the easier to pull off quickly thanks to the hidden mist setting up a good deal of moisture in the exam chamber. Tamari, however, is able to reveal her second moon just in time, and creates a dome of wind that defends she, Kiba, and Akamaru, as she then goes on to order them to sick their enemies in return. Kiba at first angrily barks back at this, but complies, going after their prey with his puppy using a Giddy Fang for Fang, which Tamari is more than happy to boost the power and spin of using a tunneling cyclone. However, Haku did agree to keep Kiba tagged, and will lock him away from Hinata, and so now seeks to take him down for good, at first forming a crystal ice mirror to impede their charge, which with this kind of speed is difficult but by no means impossible to dodge, as the twin drills bounce off one another in order to split apart and fly past the mirror. They then spitefully attempt to circle back and spear the Kekkei Genkai user hiding behind it. However, he is instead inside the mirror, a realization Kiba makes far too slowly, as Haku has already released a salvo of Senbone and speeds too fast for even this amp to match, that see him and Akamaru both rendered unable to continue, bringing Tamari into a 2v1 situation. However, poking his head out to get a good look at Hinata's finale, Haku doubts they will need it, having gotten a strong feeling that Hinata was about to use this opportunity to both vent a little, and stake herself as Nomir also ran in this competition. Putting all her physical power and focus into her speed, Hinata makes one more mad dash towards Tamari, while peppering her with the rest of the contents of her shuriken pouch as she goes, both to enable her approach and study the density of her opponent's wind chakra, all while calculating if she'd be able to pull a certain trick off any better now than when Neji last tried to show it to her. Finally, when Hinata is far too close to fall back from her, Tamari smirks and reveals the third moon, stating Hinata is far too slow, and too early to be earning epithets as a kunoichi, as she traps her in a cyclone of slashing wind, only for the seemingly dainty girl screams to lack the sweet song of pain she'd been longing to hear, instead fiercely crying out, 8 trigrams palm rotation. That isn't to say this strange wind trap jutsu is easy to break, forcing Hinata to surge her energy out from all her chakra points, and use her already spinning state to her advantage, eventually dispersing the whirlwind, and just barely clipping Tamari on the edge of the protective dome of chakra she just created. Though even this is enough to suck the sand girl into the spiral, and send her shooting and spiraling off into the air before she hits the ground hard, unable to continue after being hit the full brunt of both Hinata's chakra and her own full force attack combined. But having just defeated a fierce opponent, Hinata is very low on chakra after this, and so needs Haku's support to stand, even as Team Hyuuga is declared the winners. Hinata is very low on chakra after this, and so needs Haku's support to stand. Though still, the two friends thank each other for their hard work, whilst the proctors direct the medics to check on the losers, whom are thankfully pretty easy to resuscitate thanks to their opponents defeating them in fairly gentle ways. And upon being given the choice, Hinata does not hesitate to choose her teammate, actually surprising those spectating, as she denies the familiarity of another Leaf Shinobi, in favor of picking Tamari of the Sand as the clearly better choice, personally being able to attest to her strength and acid as a long-range fighter, besides also being a sand ninja, so she'd likely have info on a few of their rivals. Thus, with Team Hyuuga now officially a 3-man cell, she goes on to lock eyes with Sasuke and Team Uchiha, confirming their intention to take each other on next. The final match of round 3 ends up being Team Gaara versus Team Katawi, consisting of Karuhi herself and Ken. Oboro tries to coordinate with his teammate, but Gaara simply tells him to stay out of his way, while attempting to speed through the round by simply consuming both girls in a sand coffin, wanting to face that Uzumaki boy now, not in a month. The two kunoichi however work well together, scattering and using their abilities to make openings for one another, with Ken throwing Sinbone that obscure Gaara's vision as his sand tries to guard him, while Karin draws her sword and channels lightning chakra into it, allowing her to slice through the sand much easier. However, as he can still figuratively see their movements through the vibrations of the sand, this is only so effective, with a sand tsunami quickly forming to take them both out, when suddenly the ring of a bell attached to Ken's Sinbone distracts him, lulling him into a daydream for a split second and allowing his attack to waver, and give Kadoe an opening for a critical blow, if not for Oboro recognizing and breaking Ken's genjutsu, just as the Cloud Sword Girl finally forces her blade in Gaara's sand shell, and comes just mere inches away from drawing blood with it, but just nearly is not enough against a monster like Gaara, making the resulting explosion of the sand shell all the more harsh, as Kadoe is blown away and buried under a mound of sand in this imitation of Naruto's dead last blast, with the sand boy obviously not being very happy that his wasn't as violent, subsequently gripping his fist so the sand around Ken's ankles loosens to suck her feet in before trapping them tightly with twisting force threatening to break them. As Ken cries out and stares him down, she realizes that Gaara is obviously more than willing to break the determined girl's legs, but Oboro, not wanting to appear completely useless, makes a clone to place a kunai at her neck, forcing her to yield and allowing Team Gaara to pass as well, as round 3 comes to an end. Not really caring about another hanger-on, Gaara attempts to leave and calm his bloodlust before he can even make the choice of teammate to take into round 4. Though as he's halted and malevolent chakra begins to leak from him, similar but obviously far less tame than Naruto's, everyone feels on edge, with Kankuro, Temari, and Baki all now very much ready to depart themselves. However, Gaara eventually calms himself, gaining willpower and the knowledge that patience will get him a better fight, and not even turning to either of his unslain foes, as he bluntly chooses the Cloud Girl Kadoe, stating she's gotten closer than most, while the other kunoichi is simply pathetic, therefore drawing Karoe onto Team Gaara, as she, like Omoi, Komodo, and Samui, has quickly recognized this tourney is full of interesting faces and even other Jinchuriki. Thus, round 3 is drawn to a close, with the Hokage reminding them that some of the matches for round 4 have already been decided, with Team Uzumaki facing off against Team Gaara. Teams Dosu and Zaku are also facing off in a bid to absorb one another. And then, what was sure to be a massive draw for the spectators in this competition, Team Hyuuga versus Team Uchiha. And again, as in canon, a month is given to allow the teams to coordinate and train, this adding in the element of encouraging cooperation between different villages, as the different combinations of senseis can help their different warriors evolve in all kinds of ways, and by doing so, help eliminate the stigma and hatred towards one another, though this has mixed returns, depending on the teams and who tries to teach them. For example, in terms of Naruto's team, Kakashi doesn't truly need to worry about it, as he's finally received word that Lord Jiraiya has returned, and that Lord Third has purposely cut back on efforts to discourage gambling on the 4th round event, as the more than obvious trap to lure Tsunade back home for the duration of the finals, meaning both are finally back at the Land of Fire, and would more than likely run into Naruto sooner or later. Meanwhile, after some convincing, Guy, Neji, Tenten, and he turned their collective efforts to helping Sasuke's team keep up with Lee and Naruto's, mostly for their own sake, deeming the pair of those knuckleheads a fairly dangerous combo, with all assuming that Sasuke would ultimately pick up Hinata and form a perfect duo to take them on. Regardless, it's very clear something will be needed to stop Naruto should he actually win his match and gain Gaara on his team as well, as Kankuro is more than happy to inform them of how unwilling to fight the redhead he is should it come down to it. Lastly, Team Hyuuga are set up to receive some training from Hisashi, Hayashi, Zabuza, and even some passive support from Baki of the Sand, who has received orders to stay his hand and keep Gaara in check in the meantime by the Kazekage. But this is where we'll be leaving this story off for right now. That does it for part 6, act 3, and just the entire part 6 section. I really wanted to try and get part 7 set up to be either its own thing entirely and kind of not really be all too connected to the Chunin Exams, or to be the setup to usher in the True Blue end to the part 1 section of this, verse where Hinata is on Team 7. Hence why I want to flesh out some of the other teams in the Chunin Exams going forward. I'm also trying not to be too heavy-handed with who's in the competition still and who isn't, so that's why I'm keeping some nobodies in the game for now as just as buffers. I also hope the individual character arcs and little steps forward people or the individual characters are taking are starting to shine through a little more clear. Like Naruto is really obviously both about his independence and his self-worth. Sasuke is kind of about his self-expression and also kind of his self-worth, but more so learning to have hope and, not be so pessimistic. And Hinata's kind of weird. Like, she acts like overtly like kind of like nationalistic here, where like I don't know how to explain it. She was always kind of widely accepted, where like that was in canon as well. But the point of this was she needs to feel kind of different to necessitate some of the things she's doing here. Hence the idea of, the kidnapping incident kind of inspired some, xenophobic ideas where, like, if you're not from the Leaf, or if you're a non-Leaf shinobi, she's not too trusting of you. So that instantly makes Haku, you know, somebody who is kind of getting shoved here in the story again. I wholly recognize that. I love Haku and Zabuza. I cannot deny that by any means. But because they've already forged a friendship, she's fine with Haku. But then you take Temari, who is already kind of antagonistic and actually is like a bad guy with something to hide, and she's not familiar with her, and she's choosing Temari just because Temari is the best option. Kiba would be a foolish option. I mean, not a bad one, but he certainly wouldn't be as optimum as what Temari is going to add to the team. There's also the aspect of Tenten having taught this version of Hinata some things, so that kind of made this a pseudo rematch between Temari and Tenten from canon, which I really liked. I don't know, man, I'm just really enjoying this story and this setup for the Chunin Exams. I don't know if I'll enjoy it this much going forward when I don't get to do all these tournament arcs things, but this has been really, really fun. So I know I'm rambling. Anyway, making part 6 last so long was also worth it because now we can play with all this stuff we just talked about and the different wacky team combos and the new mentors everyone's going to get. You've all been very, very clear you're just excited for Naruto to meet his new trainers as I've been telling the story so far, so part 7 is going to be really, really fun and I cannot wait. For now, make sure you are subscribed, and if you are and aren't getting notifications too often, or you're starting to see where videos are coming out and you're just not seeing them when they are coming out, try hitting that little bell thingy and turning on all notifications and seeing if that helps. Before we go, shout out to the amazing supporters of the channel in the form of our patrons and channel members. Knuckles OX, Crimson Manifesto, Pizza 15X, Aaron Winters, Normandy 1998, Shao Pai, Coder SV3, Ronan Charizard, Daniel Smith, Dylan Wolfdog 31, Infernate Beast 326, Jay Ray, Johnny, Narku, Omar Cousins, Snow Slash Music More, Stephen Norton, Taryn, The Shadows, Vegito What Ifs, Alamancer B, Blood Down, Lyman Rogers, Omar Muhammad, Aiko, Tay, Inebriated, John Sullivan, Trent Rouse, Dark Shadows, Pokemon Trainer Cam, Riverjoy, Elijah Edwards, Mr. Hamtastic, Jesus is King, Half an Onion, Angel Gonzalez, David Spalding, Lil T 910, Flyer B, Joseph Lau, Blaze 9526, Trainer Rad 164, Luca Reynolds, Baron Stormblade, Ono, Chris Macariano, Lily, Simroth, Red Violet, DeAndre, Gerald Smith, John Self, Jacob Whitker, Massive Oak Woodtree, Demon Set, True Trade, Dutch McGee 101, Bruce Boswick, Robert Arstegard, Illis Cyclops, Craig Scheiman, Jal Madden, Keen Music for Real, Ballcore, Zach Eubanks, Crab Trooper 4552, NBA Fan, Courtney Hawkins, Orion 101, Christian Kyler, Dominique Wiltz, Jester DeMille, Cyber Samurai, The Grim Doctor, The Storybuster, One Code Pirate, Ganning 667, and Dr. Ember. Thank you guys so much for your direct support of the channel. It truly does do the most for me as a content creator and make it much, much easier to make content at a high quality very consistently, so it really does mean a lot to me. For now, that's all I have, so take care of yourselves and the world around you, and as always, go beyond plus ultra. And I'll see you guys next time.